Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. So Namas welcome to this session. So today we are going to start with chapter 4. Specifically, we are going to cover 4 slokas in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. We will begin with, again, a shloka from our Samskriti. And for today, I have chosen the 3rd shloka of the Hitopadesha of Sri Narayana Pandit. You might have heard of the Hitopadesha. It is just like the Panchatantra. It's a book on Niti. And it has a similar structure to Panchatantra in the sense that it begins with a story of a king with unhappy children, and the king employs a pandit, and in the Hitopadesha, the pandit is named as Vishnu Sharma, who is the author of Panchatantra. Here, the author is Narayana Pandita, who was patronized, a great scholar who was patronized by the king Dhavala Chandra several centuries ago. And the Hitopadesha consists of very wise sayings that pertain to our Samskriti, Dharma, about Niti, ethics, polity, how to conduct oneself in society and stuff like that. So by reading the Hitopadesha, studying and trying to absorb the values of this book, we can develop ourselves as a human being and also influence others very positively. So the shloka for today, that's chosen for today, is this. Ajara maravat pragno vidyam artham cha chintayet, also sadhayet, chintayet or sadhayet, 2 versions are there. Grihita iva kesheshu mrityuna dharmamacharet. So this is telling us the importance of practicing dharma as compared to the practice of acquiring wealth or acquiring modern learning, material learning. Okay, so what does it say? It says, Ajara amaravat pragyaha. Pragyaha means a very wise person, intelligent person, wise person. A wise person should acquire vidya. Vidyam artham cha means vidya is learning. Artham refers to material wealth or prosperity, richness. So material learning and material wealth, he should acquire with the mindset, with the thinking, Ajara Amaravat. Ajara means there is no old age. Amara means no death. So he should think that I'm not going to die. I'm not going to grow old. So keeping these worries aside, whether he's going to grow old or he's going to die, he should acquire material learning and material wealth. Basically, what it means is that he should not think, now time is running out. I should quickly acquire as much wealth as I can. Now, time is running out. I should learn everything that I want to learn within the next 1 year. No, this kind of a pressure should not be there. Let him acquire wealth slowly. Let's acquire wealth gradually, slowly, similarly learning at its own normal pace. No hurry, no pressure. Right? So one should not be impatient and one should not lose oneself. One should not fall over oneself to gain these things. But in contrast, he says, Grihita iva kesheshu mrityuna dharmamacharet. Means one should, in the matter of practicing dharma, one should not think, I'll never grow old, I'll never die. Instead, one should think, death is holding me by the hair. Grihita iva kesheshu means my hair is being held by death. Death is so close to me. Any time death can come. So thinking like that, he should practice dharma. Okay, so 2 contrasting mentalities. One says that don't think that you're ever going to grow old, you're ever going to die. And with that open mindset, learn, acquire wealth, and so on. Means don't be impatient, allow time to pass and allow yourself time to learn these things. Whereas the other one says, just don't postpone. Think that anytime you can die and there is no time left, dharma should be practiced immediately. Now, how do you reconcile these two? The point that he's trying to actually make here is that among the priorities we should have in life, the topmost must be dharma. Nothing should be postponed for the practice of dharma. This is extremely important in today's age also, because sometimes, very often, you know, we see parents telling their children, now you are young, you should, go acquire a degree, you should learn, you should study. Don't go to the don't spend your time going to temple or reading Bhagavad-gita, reading this, all this mythology and all these things now. When you become old like me, when you're finished, when you're middle-aged, when your children have grown up, when you retire, then practice all these things. After retirement, Bhagavad Gita is meant for people after retirement. After retirement, practice. This is a lot of time. Don't worry. So now this sloka is telling the opposite. It says, in the matter of dharma, don't think you have any time. Death can come and snatch away your life at any moment. So practice dharma every day, every moment. Every moment live by dharma. Study the shastra whenever you can. Right? Take time and study. Make time for shastra. But in terms of acquiring wealth, becoming rich and so on, think that the whole life is there. Slowly we can acquire as it comes. Be content with what you have at any point of time. Right? Similarly, learning, material learning. This refers to not spiritual learning. It refers to specifically material learning. Vidya means here in this context, because it's coming along with artha, right? It's coming, the two are coming together. It's not the jnana referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. That jnana is part of dharma. This vidya here is the learning which helps us to acquire more wealth, become rich, become more powerful in society, and so on. So don't be impatient for that. Allow that as second priority compared to dharma, in comparison to dharma. Okay, so this is the translation. A wise person ought to acquire material learning and wealth, thinking that he will never die or never grow old. However, he must practice dharma, thinking that death is holding him by the hair, or in other words, that he may die at any moment. And essentially, this shloka is about prioritizing that dharma is much more important to one's long-term welfare than the acquisition of material learning and wealth. It's all right to set aside and procrastinate the latter, while the former must never be neglected or postponed. And this is consistent with the message of the Bhagavad Gita, because the Gita talks about us being eternal by nature. And this is not our only life. This is just one life among many lives. When we die in this life, it's not that we become non-existent. We will just take another birth and then another birth after that. So if we practice dharma seriously, then we evolve to better conditions in future. Our future becomes better. By the practice of dharma, our future becomes better. We'll have a future better birth where we can practice dharma even better and improve our next future. Right? So in this way, dharma elevates us continuously. Whereas material learning and wealth, they are just, with this life, they are gone. Whatever learning, for example, let's say I got a PhD. Okay, now all of you are doing PhD, but I'm not discouraging you from doing your PhD. It's a very good thing you're doing. But also we should keep in mind when we study dharma that whatever we do in this lifetime, however big we become, at the end of this life, it's all over. It becomes zero, right? We begin a fresh life from zero again, as far as material achievements are concerned. Those material achievements don't get carried forward. What gets carried forward? It's the punya that we get through our dharma, or the sukriti that we get. We'll talk about sukriti also as we go forward. Sukriti means spiritual progress. Punya is the material, the good returns that we will get in the future birth, a better birth in a more spiritual family or a wealthy family, such kind of material returns. Spiritual returns are the consciousness, the urge to practice spiritual life, the knowledge. Spiritual knowledge automatically comes to someone in the next life who has practiced some amount of yoga in this life, amount of spiritual progress in this life. It's never lost. Neha vikrama nashosti pratyavayo na vidyate. In second chapter it's said. So therefore, the practice of dharma is definitely far superior to the other two, and we should never procrastinate. So this is a very beautiful shloka from the Hitopadesha. And reflecting on this, we will now move forward to the first shloka of the fourth chapter of Bhagavad-gita. Yeah, so before we go to the first shloka of the fourth chapter, I felt that we should do a very quick recap of what we learned in chapter 3. In chapter 3, we talked about karma yoga. Karma yoga is done because of the motivation to acquire spiritual knowledge, jnana, and eventually mukti. By cultivation of jnana, spiritual knowledge, one develops the eligibility to go towards mukti. And the last stage is bhakti. After practicing bhakti, one gets liberation, mukti. Karma yoga involves doing one's duties sincerely without attachment to the fruits. This does not mean one becomes demotivated. One has focus on the fruits, but without attachment to them. One is highly motivated. One who is internally pure and fully satisfied with the self by the practice of karma yoga then reaches the stage where they don't have any more obligation to perform karma. But even then, even at that stage, a person will still continue to do their karma for the sake of loka sangraha. Loka sangraha means setting a good example for others and not disturbing society. Then we also learned this, that the greatest enemy to practicing yoga of any form, karma or bhakti, is kama, which is also known as krodha because it manifests alternatively as krodha. And what does it do? It covers the jnana. So a person in karma yoga is trying to attain jnana, but kama, krodha, it opposes that. It covers the jnana at 3 different levels. We spoke about this. Where does it kama reside? Kama comes and it doesn't explicitly attack us, in the sense it doesn't come like a person, a human being with a sword, and then that's easy because we can see that person coming and we can take protection from somebody. But here we don't even know that it's there. It's quietly residing in the senses, in the mind, in the intelligence. Again, here Krishna points out that the jivatma, that is each of us, the living being, is superior to the mind, the senses, the intelligence, and so on. And because of that superiority, the jivatma has the ability, is capable of eliminating kama altogether, can conquer kama. So eventually he points out that the kama must be eliminated with the weapon known as jnana. It cannot be, you cannot pacify kama, you cannot overcome kama or send it away by satisfying it. There's no question of overcoming kama by satisfying kama. The only way is to develop jnana. When jnana develops, automatically kama subsides. And you don't even realize that kama has subsided because you're enjoying that jnana. The happiness of the jnana is far superior to the happiness that kama gives. So a person with jnana, when there is spiritual knowledge inside, the person becomes naturally averse. He doesn't have to struggle inside. He doesn't have to force himself mentally to say, no, I don't want kama, I don't want that, I don't want this. No, that's not required because he is relishing that jnana inside. He's so happy, he wants more of that jnana. So because of that happiness, he doesn't feel any more attraction to the earlier attractions that he had, the sense objects that he was attracted towards earlier. Automatically that subsides, it goes down. Okay, so Sri Bhagavan strongly repeatedly says that go towards jnana, and the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gita is about jnana. And we will learn about the properties of jnana, how it is acquired, what are the qualities of a person who aspires for jnana, and so on. The first shloka of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Sri Bhagavan uvacha, imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam, imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam, Vivasvan manave praha manur ikshvakave abravit. So Sri Bhagavan now says that whatever I have been speaking to you, I have been speaking now about yoga. In the 3rd chapter, I spoke about yoga. In the 2nd chapter also, I introduced some of the concepts connected to both karma and jnana. All this actually, I spoke earlier to Vivasvan, Vivasvate, to Vivasvan, to a person named Vivasvan. And this yoga actually is avyaya, means it doesn't ever perish. It's always existing. It's avyaya. Vyaya means that which gets over, that which perishes. इसका व्यय हो जाता है. So योग ऐसा चीज है जिसका व्यय कभी नहीं होता है. Vivasvan manave praha. And this person by name Vivasvan, he gave it to another person by name Manu. So Vivasvan's son is Manu, and he gave it to Manu. And Manu, what did he do? Manave praha manuhu ikshvakave abravit. Manu gave it to another person by name Ikshvaku. So he narrates 3 names, 3 people, Vivasvan, Manu, and Ikshvaku. They are related as father and son. Vivasvan's son is Manu, Manu's son is Ikshvaku. So let's see the translation of this shloka and then go forward. Sri Bhagavan said, I described this eternal system of yoga, avyaya means eternal, to Vivasvan. Vivasvan described it to Manu, and Manu in turn described it to Ikshvaku. So now to understand this this thing about Vivasvan, Manu, and so on, let's spend a little bit of time on understanding the nature of universal time, the Vedic understanding of universal time, how we understand the flow of time universally. When was the universe created? How old is the universe? And so on. According to the Veda, there are countless universes, of which our universe is just one. Okay, the Sanskrit word for universe is Brahmanda. Brahmanda means the universe looks like an egg, right? And even modern science conceives of the universe something like that, a sphere or an egg or a sphere. So our universe is one among countless universes, and in some places it's described that Mahavishnu, he is above this. He is lying in what is called as the Karana Sagara, right? So he's called Karanodakashayi Vishnu. So he's lying there, and from his body, countless universes are coming out when he breathes out. And each of these universes has one Brahma inside it, okay, who is the first living being inside the universe. And through him, a creation inside the universe happens. So he's both the designer. He designs, he thinks with his mind how the universe should be. What are the different aspects in the universe? How should its structure be? What kind of living beings should live in? What kind of forms? And so on. And how should different activities happen, etc. And that Brahma then makes it happen. With his powers, he actually sets them in motion. The life of a universe, any universe, is equal to the lifespan of that universe's Brahma. So, for example, our universe has got this Brahma who is known as Chaturmukha Brahma because he has 4 faces, and its lifespan will be equal to the lifespan of our Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years on his time scale. Okay, so every living being in this universe, at whatever level it is of evolution, has its own time scale. It lives its 100 years from 0 to 100. It conceives of that as 100 years. And it has its own feeling of a full life. For example, as a human being, we have one lifetime, which we can call as on a scale of 100 years. But if you look at, let's say, a tortoise, it's got a much longer lifespan, right? An elephant probably has a longer lifespan than a human being. Or if you look at, let's say, a banyan tree, banyan trees lives for hundreds of years. Many trees live for hundreds of years, right? So what would have a tree which was planted at the time of, let's say, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here, or maybe when Ramanujacharya or Shankaracharya was here, may still be alive somewhere, right? We don't know. So now our Brahma, the Chaturmukha Brahma, is exactly 50 years old on his time scale. Okay, 50 years of Brahma's life has passed in the universal time scale. Okay, now how is Brahma's year divided? Brahma's each year has 360 days of Brahma, 360 Brahma days, and each day of Brahma is also known as a kalpa. The daytime of Brahma is called a kalpa. Okay, so you can think of the daytime of Brahma as 12 hours long, like because we are using our terminology, so 12 hours, morning say 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, there are 30 different kalpa names in Brahma's month. In 1 month of Brahma consists of 30 Brahma days, 30 kalpas, and they are known by 30 different names. In the Matsya Purana, sorry, the spelling is wrong, Matsya Purana, it lists these 30 names in this place. The 290th chapter, 3rd shloka to the 12th shloka, list the 30 different names of the kalpa of Brahma. There are 12 months in a year of Brahma. The current kalpa in which we are now is also called the Shvetavaraha kalpa. This is the name of the kalpa. I said there are 30 names, so one of the names is Shvetavaraha kalpa. That's the first in the list of 30. And today of Brahma also happens to be the first day of his 51st year of his life. So exactly 50 years are over, and we are now on the first day of the 51st year of Sri Brahma's life. Okay, now each kalpa, I said, is the daytime. So similarly, there is also a night time. At the end of the day of Brahma, there is a Mahapralaya. And this Mahapralaya, what happens is the beginning of his night time. And during that Mahapralaya, what exactly happens, we will see now. Yes. This is from the Bhagavad-gita 8th chapter. Okay, so I'm just jumping to the 8th chapter for a moment. I'll read a few shlokas from there and then we will come back. This shloka, this is the 17th shloka of the 8th chapter, where it describes Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Te Ho Ratra Vidojanaha. Essentially, what this shloka says is that one daytime, one kalpa of Brahma is equal to the duration of the night time. So when the night begins at the end of the kalpa, this is of equal duration, and the two together, each of them is equal to 1000 Chatur Yugas. Together, they are 2000 Chatur Yugas. Okay, so what exactly is a Chatur Yuga? We will come to in more detail in the next slide. But before that, the 18th shloka of the 8th chapter is Avyaktad Vyaktaya Sarvaha Prabhavantyah Ragame Ratriagame Praliyante Tatraiva Vyakta Sanyake. Means that in each of these kalpas, all the living beings become manifest. All of us, Jivatmas, we become manifest in the set of activities that the universe takes place. And at the end of the kalpa, when the night begins, they become unmanifest. It is said that all the living beings, everything in creation, is absorbed into Brahma's body. All the living beings go into a state of sushupti, unconscious. They go into deep sleep, you can say, not unconscious or deep sleep, a state of deep sleep like we experience in the night when we sleep. The deep sleep state is manifest at that point of time. The living beings go into that and they are no longer aware of who they are, what they are, etc. There's no more identity at that point of time. Again, in the beginning of the next kalpa, by Sri Brahma's powers, they are left out. They come out into the universe and Sri Brahma begins the fresh creation. So next kalpa begins with a new creation. So every kalpa has a creation and a destruction at the end of it. Bhuta gramasya evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriagame avashaf partha prabhavatyah ragame. Essentially summarizing the previous two shlokas, the 19th shloka says that in this material existence, the living beings repeatedly become manifest and unmanifest. So as long as they are in the samsara, they would be in some universe, and inside the material universe, they are repeatedly undergoing a state of manifestation, unmanifestation. This happens at different levels. At the most, say, macro level, you can say each of our own days, like today, for example, we are going to go to bed at night. So in some sense, that going to bed at night is a state of becoming unmanifest, because we, first of all, go out of the state of wakefulness. We are no longer awake. We become, we start dreaming. We go into the state of swapna. And after some time, we go into the state of deep sleep. And that is the longest duration, right? In the sleep, suppose we sleep for 7 hours, maybe 4 to 5 hours, we would be in a state of deep sleep. And the remaining 2 to 3 hours, we might be dreaming, depending on how good our sleep is, right? If sleep is excellent, then we would have a longer duration of deep sleep when we get complete rest, in which the body undergoes all its repair and rest functions. So there is manifestation, unmanifestation, that is vyakta, avyakta. Vyakta means manifest, avyakta means unmanifest. So this vyakta, avyakta happens every day in our life. Similarly, in every kalpa, in Brahma's every day, also the living being goes through this vyakta, avyakta at a larger level, right? In between, what happens we will see now in the next slide. But before that, there is one more shloka from the 8th chapter. Parastasmat tu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yasya sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. So here Sri Bhagavan points out that, well, the material existence is not everything. It is just what the living being is experiencing now. But superior to this existence is the spiritual existence. And this is what he wants to teach in the Bhagavad-gita. This is what the Bhagavad-gita is trying to hammer into us. That this superior existence is what we should strive for. Why? Because it's eternal. And it is beyond this avyakta, vyakta cycle, manifest, unmanifest. So why should we be tossed around in this samsara sagara, avyakta, vyakta, avyakta, vyakta? Why? Why not experience eternal state, which is full of happiness, energy, joy, full of variety? It's what we want to be. It's what we aspire for even when we are living. Even in this state, we say that we want to go to a resort. We want to enjoy. We want to see beautiful scenery, right? So that is the eternal state that we can actually become. We can actually attain, where we don't have to plan to go to a resort, because we always are in that resort-like condition. It's a state of eternal happiness, right? and where the living being is never destroyed. So, okay, destroyed is within quotes here, na vinashyati. Now, I put this within quotes because we have seen in the second chapter that the Jivatma can never be destroyed, that it has no vinasha. Avinashi tu tad viddhi, yena sarvamidam tatam. So the Jivatma has no destruction. So here, na vinashyati is mentioned not to indicate, not to talk about that no destruction, but to say that there's no birth and death. Like we are experiencing now, our death is some kind of destruction. The body gets destroyed. Well, that phenomenon of the body being destroyed and again taking a new body, that will never happen if the Jivatma attains this eternal state. Right? So this is what Sri Bhagavan urges us to achieve. Okay, so now let's come back to the fourth chapter where we're talking about Vivasvan and the first sloka of the fourth chapter. We were talking about the Kalpa of Brahma, 1 day of Brahma, and having 1000 Chatur Yugas. So let's understand what this word Chatur Yugas means and how the day of Brahma is decided, or how it is structured. So one Chatur Yuga is composed of 4 yugas. Each Chatur Yuga is composed of 4 yugas, as the word Chatur means 4. One Satya Yuga, one Treta Yuga, one Dwapar Yuga, and one Kali Yuga. Right? So we are now in one of the Kali Yugas. One Kali Yuga is of this duration, 4,32,000 years of the earth. So our earth goes around the sun, right? So in one revolution of the sun, we say we have experienced 1 year. So 4,32,000 such years becomes one Kali Yuga. What about the other yugas? The ratios are like this. The Satya Yuga is 4 times the duration of Kali Yuga. Treta Yuga is 3 times. Dwapar Yuga is 2 times of Kali Yuga. So totally, the Chatur Yuga will be the sum of 4 Kali Yuga plus 3 Kali Yuga plus 2 Kali Yuga plus 1 Kali Yuga, which is 10 Kali Yuga. And that therefore becomes 4.32 million years. Okay, so 1 Kali Yuga is 4.32 lakh years into 10, 4.32 million years of the earth is one Chatur Yuga. All right. One daytime of Brahma, or one kalpa is 1000 Chatur Yugas, which means 1000 times 4.32 million earth years, which is 4.32 billion earth years. Right? So this is one kalpa, 4.32 billion years of the earth is one daytime of our Brahma. The night time is also of the same duration. The night time is also of the same duration. Okay, now I have a quiz for you. Okay. Compute the lifespan of this universe in earth years. We said that Brahma lives for 100 years of his life, right? 100 years of his time scale. And we also said 1 year composed of 360 days. And each day has one kalpa plus one pralaya, that is one daytime plus one night time. So now you have to do the math and tell me. Probably you don't have a calculator. Would you like me to give you a time, a minute, let's say 1 minute, 1 minute of our time, not Brahma's time? To calculate.
Yes,
Try.
yes,
Let's
sir.
see if you can get it. You can use Excel.
So the question is, sir, compute the lifespan of the universe in Earth years. Okay.
Yeah, lifespan of the universe or the lifespan of Brahma. In terms of Earth years. Okay. Let's see who can do it first and do it correctly. All of you are PhD students and have a financial analyst also, a double MBA. So we'll see who of you can do
So
this.
I think it's 4.32 multiplied by 2, which becomes one complete day, multiplied by 360
Yes.
as 1 year, multiplied by 100, because
Yes.
the life of Brahma is of 100 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
4.32 into 2 into 360 into 100.
Yeah.
Should be enough.
Yes.
So we're in
3111040.
right? We're in the 51st year though, right? So the only thing is the last one I changed. And so I was doing 4.32 times 2 because of day and night times 360 times 50. That's what I was doing.
No, you have to compare. 50 is what is already over. So into 2 would be the full. Yeah. 100.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So this
Okay. Okay. You are saying the
Missing the into 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lifespan of the universe.
Universe.
Complete universe from the starting.
Not only from the starting. Not only what
not
is
the remaining time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You were not asking like how much life gone. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
So this, according to the Veda, this is the lifespan of the universe or Brahma. Right? So this is how long it is. And it also, the mention of this in the context of Bhagavad-gita also tells us how small our lifetime is, right? We're just, very small in one lifetime. We just experience one lifetime. But in the universal time scale, it is just a small flicker of time in the larger time scale. It's nothing. So now let's go into a little more micro level detail about Kalpa and Manvantara. What happens in a Kalpa? What happens in a Manvantara? So you can see here, a Manvantara is a period within a Kalpa of Brahma. So if Brahma lives for 100 years and we have 360 days in 1 year of Brahma, 1 year has one day, one Kalpa has a small period inside it called Manvantara. And actually, one Kalpa does not have just one Manvantara, it has 14 Manvantaras, where the duration of one Manvantara is equal to 71 Chaturyugas. So we said that one Kalpa has 1000 Chaturyugas. Now, those 1000 Chaturyugas are spread over 14 Manvantaras. Each Manvantara has 71 of those Chaturyugas. Okay, 71 Chaturyugas are composed of together comprise one Manvantara. So 14 of them together will comprise 994 Chaturyugas, right? 14 into 71. Okay, now what happens to the remaining 6? The remaining 6 Chaturyugas are divided over 15 Manvantara Sandhyas. Sandhya means a period of transition or junction. Sandhya is a junction. When you transit from one time period to another time period, that's called a Sandhya, Sandhya Kal. So there are 14 Manvantaras. So if you look at the time periods between them, Sandhyas would be 13, right? 13 joining periods, and one period before and one after the first one, before the first one, and one after the last one. So 13 plus 2 is 15. So how long would each Sandhya Kal be? Sandhya Kal would be 6 divided by 15, that is 0.4 Manvantaras. So 0.4 Manvantara is how long? Now if you multiply the duration of a Manvantara into 0.4, you get this number. It is 17,28,000 years, which is the duration of one Satya Yuga. So at the end of one Manvantara, which has 71 Chaturyugas, each Chaturyuga being 10 times a Kali Yuga, you have one duration of a Satya Yuga, one Satya Yuga equivalent duration, which is the Sandhya period, transition from one Manvantara to the next Manvantara. Okay, now to understand Manvantara concept a little better, I have listed the 14 Manvantaras in the current Kalpa. The current Kalpa of Brahma, like we already said, is called the Shweta Varaha Kalpa. So in this Shweta Varaha Kalpa, these are the names of the 14 Manvantara. The Swayambhuva Manu. Okay, I have not put the diacritic marks as yet. I'll put them later. Swayambhuva Manu or Swayambhuva Manvantara, Swarochisha Manvantara, Uttama Manvantara, Tapasa or Tamasa Manvantara, Raivata Manvantara, Chakshusha Manvantara, Vivasvata Manvantara, Savarni Manvantara, Daksha Savarni Manvantara, Brahma Savarni Manvantara, Dharma Savarni, Rudra Savarni, Deva Savarni, and Indra Savarni Manvantara. These are the names of the 14 Manvantaras. So, which Manvantara are we experiencing now? That is answered in this shloka. Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha. The current Manu, Vivasvan taught this to Manu. The current Manu is the son of Vivasvan, and so he is called Vivasvan. His name is Vivasvan. And so from that we learn that we are now in the Vivasvata Manvantara, the 7th one. In the current day of Brahma, which is the first day of his 51st year, we are in the 7th Manvantara. 6 Manvantaras have already gone by. Okay, and where are we? In that Manvantara, we said there are 71 Chaturyugas, right? So which Chaturyuga are we in? We are in the 28th Chaturyuga. So within this Vivasvata Manvantara, 27 Chaturyugas have already gone by, and we are in the 28th Chaturyuga. And in the Chaturyuga, we said there are 4 yugas. So which one are we in? We are in the Kali Yuga. We are in the Kali Yuga of the 28th Chaturyuga in the Vivasvata Manvantara of the Shvetavaraha Kalpa of Sri Brahma. Okay, so now we are now narrowing down to the current time point in the universe. And where are we in the Kali Yuga? Now, as per the descriptions that we get from different sources, we are about 5,123 years into this Kali Yuga. A lot of research has gone into this because we are now trying to talk in terms of the Christian calendar, right? That's how we define the year in today's education system. So 5,123 years is a calculation made by several different people, and they say that the Kali Yuga began about 3,102 BC. Okay, there is some dispute about the exact date and time on this, but approximately 3,102 BC is when it began, and which means we are somewhere in this time period as of today. Today is 2022 AD, right? So what does it mean? It means that 4,26,877 years of the current Kali Yuga are still left. That will be coming now in the future, of which each of us in this present lifetime may live for a few more decades, right? Okay, like I just said, the present Manu is the son of Vivasvan, and he's also called as Vivasvan. Vivasvataha apatyam puman is Vivasvan. That's the expansion in Sanskrit. And therefore, he's also called the Vivasvata Manu. So another interesting point is that in each Manvantara, okay, there are 14 Manvantaras in a day of Brahma. In each of them, all the major deities of this universe change. Okay, they're also, most of them are Jivatmas like us, like you and me, Jivatmas who acquire punya and who have a desire to occupy that post. Okay, so just like in normal society, we have people, number of people have a desire to become somebody with some status, right? There's also a desire for status. I want to become the president of the country. A lot of people who have that desire. I want to become the president of the country. I want to become the prime minister. I want to become an IAS officer. I want to become the president of my company. I want to become the president of a Fortune 500 company. So the desire to occupy a post is a very common desire in living beings, right? So similarly, there's also a desire among the same living beings who know about Shastra to become a status holder or a post holder in the universal scheme of things, not only in this earth, not only in the human society, but in the larger society of the universal system. So similarly, therefore there is a desire to become Indra, the desire to become Chandra. Chandra is the deity of the moon, Varuna, the deity of water, Surya, the deity of the sun, and so on. The desire to become, I want to become that, right? And how do you become that? You become that by performing different processes through which you acquire the required punya and the merit to become that. Okay. So each Manvantara, one Jivatma is typically given that privilege to become that thing, is appointed to that post where he has to perform that duty as Indra or Chandra, Varuna, whatever set of activities they are supposed to perform in the universe is assigned to them, and they are trained to do that. The current Indra in the present Manvantara that we are experiencing now, his name is Purandara, and there is some description about how he became Indra, what kind of tapasya he did. It is said that if a king wants to become Indra, then he has to perform 100 Ashwamedha yagas, right? So this gentleman Purandara, who is the current Indra for us, he performed these many Ashwamedha yagas and he's become Indra. We also learn from different Shastras that he is generally very insecure, right? Like typically any politician, he is insecure, right? He's always afraid that his term will get over or somebody will replace him. Every king has this insecurity. The enemy will attack me and replace me. And we also hear in the stories related to our Indra, how many times, some Asura demon like Bali comes and displaces Indra from his throne and takes over. Bali wants to become Indra. He has the desire to become Indra, but he doesn't take the process of performing Ashwamedha yaga and getting the punya. He straight away takes his army and knocks this Indra out of his seat, right? So that's the illegal way of doing it. The legal way is to do Ashwamedha yaga and get the required punya and then become Indra. So Bali does this and then Vishnu has to come. The current Indra becomes helpless. He doesn't know how to get back his power. So the Devas go to Vishnu and pray to him. And they say, please come as, please do something to restore the order back. These Asuras have become now the masters of Swarga. So please restore the order back. And so Vishnu appears as Vamana Avatara, and he takes the he becomes the son of Aditi, right? He becomes Aditi's son. And then he performs a very beautiful Leela, performs a very beautiful Leela as Vamana and removes Bali from that post. Removes Bali and he establishes Indra back in his position. Of course, in the process, what happens is Bali gets the blessings of Prahlad. Prahlad is a bhakta. And Prahlad is also the grandfather of Bali, right? So Prahlad appears there, and Prahlad, by his grace, Prahlad prays to Vishnu and says that, please forgive him for what he has done. And Bali gets the blessings because of the grace of Prahlad. He gets the bhakti towards Vishnu. And Bali says, and Bali is blessed by Vishnu to become the next Indra. Bali says that I will give you whatever you decide. And in the next Manvantara, that is the Savarni Manvantara, the 8th Manvantara listed here, Bali will be given the position of Indra. And he will rule as Indra for one Manvantara before he gets mukti from this universe. Okay. Okay, now Vivasvan's name has come here. So why is Vivasvan also special? Vivasvan is also the Surya. It so happens that the Vivasvan, the gentleman known as Vivasvan, who is the Surya now, he is not a Jivatma. He is Narayana. Narayana himself has come. Sometimes when a suitable Jivatma is not available to occupy that post, then Narayana himself comes. Vishnu himself takes that position. So the sun god, currently the Surya, is also called as Surya Narayana. Right? We worship him not only as Surya, but as Surya Narayana. He's also called Surya Narayana because he's not a Jivatma. It's Narayana himself who is there. And the light which comes from the Surya, from sun god. In modern science, we say that a lot of gases, and those gases are burning at very high temperature. And in the process of burning, we are seeing that light, right? The light of the sun and the heat of the sun. But in the Shastra, the light and the heat are explained in terms of the effulgence of the body of Vishnu. Vishnu's body is extremely effulgent, and that effulgence creates a heat. So that effulgence is what we experience as the heat and light of the sun. That's the understanding in the Veda. And and Vishnu manifests that in his own way, right? He has a purpose in doing that. So when he manifests as, say, Krishna in the form of Krishna or as Ram, that effulgence is not visible to everybody, right? If he does that, then everything will be burnt. So he manifests his form as a human being. He behaves like a human being. He conducts activities like a human being because he wants to inspire human beings to do their respective activities, perform dharma. But when he takes the role of the Surya, then he manifests that heat and that light from his body. And that serves its own purpose. So this is an overview of the universal time scale, and it brings us back to this shloka where he says that I gave this knowledge to that Vivasvan, and through this a parampara began. Vivasvan gave it to Manu, and Manu gave it to Ikshvaku, and this is the Surya Vamsha. This is also called the Surya Vamsha, in which Sri Rama appeared, right? Ramayana happens in this Surya Vamsha. Okay, now in the second shloka of the 4th chapter, Sri Bhagavan says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakalena iha mahata yogo nashtaf parantapa. So this knowledge of yoga, which I have given to Vivasvan and began the parampara, over time, this was given by the kings to their sons, and all the great saintly kings, Rajarshaya Viduhu, they all knew about it. It was well known and it was practiced. They practiced karma yoga, they did jnana yoga, they did bhakti. Everything was well established and always existing. But sakalena iha mahata. Mahata kalena means great time, the great force of time. This yoga, nashtaha or parantapa. Parantapa is the name of Arjuna that's used here. Parantapa means one who gives misery to one's enemies. Parantapa. So Arjuna's quality is that enemies are afraid of him. So such a yoga, which was being transferred from one king to another king in parampara, that because of the force of time, the great force of time, has now been destroyed, has been lost. Sa eva ayam mayate adya yogav proktav puratanaha bhakto asime sakha chaiti rahasyam hetad uttamam. He says that same yoga, sa eva, that same yoga, I have given it to you in the form of karma yoga. So what I have spoken in the last chapter, in the 3rd chapter, is what was always existing, And that's what I have just spoken to you. I have not spoken something new. I have not created something now. I have not cooked up something now just to make you fight this war. I have given you something that's always been existing. And why have I chosen you? I could have actually, set up a stage here and given it to everybody. Everybody, so many thousands and thousands of lakhs of warriors are standing here. I could have addressed the whole gathering and given it to them, but no, I have chosen you. Why? Bhakto asi me sakha chaiti. You're both my bhakta and my sakha, my dear friend. Rahasyam etaduttamam. This yoga is not something to be publicly given from a stage. Stage performance. It's not for stage performance. It's actually very secretive. There's something very secretive about it. It says Uttamam Rahasyam. It's very secretive knowledge. So why is it secretive? We will touch upon that now. The translation of this shloka would be something like this. It's the same legendary yoga system that I described to you today. I shared this supreme secret with you since you are both my bhakta as well as my friend. Okay. Bhagavad-gita is Rahasyam, confidential, secretive. Why is this word used? And this is not used only here, but it's used multiple times in the Gita. Again and again it comes. And in the end of the Gita, Sri Bhagavan also says that don't publicly give this to everybody. Don't publicly give it to everyone. Don't announce it. Don't talk about it loosely. That's what he's trying to say. Talk about it to people selectively. Why? Because the main reason is that most people in samsara will not find it attractive or will not find its message acceptable. The mind, the conditioned mind, the mind, because of its desires, karma, the desire, the samskara to enjoy this world, will reject a message like this, will tend to reject it. Because this message tells them to go away from that karma. It tells them to look for something beyond. To most people, that beyond looks unreal. It doesn't look real. It looks imaginary. It looks like something that somebody has just thought of as a fiction in their mind. So this Shraddha, the conviction that there may be something real in this, comes to only a few people. And it is to them that you should give this, those who are open to receive this. If you give it publicly, a majority of the people will say, this is just some arbitrary imagination. It's not for me. That's why parents advise children that, take it up after the age of 60 because they think it's useless. Let's do something because they hope that even after 60, he will not take it up. Maybe after 60 also, because by then he would have become a big man. He would have earned a lot of money and this will no longer be interesting at all. So they just postpone it. Take it after the age of 60. Most people don't want it. That is why this advice is given, right? So that's why Sri Bhagavan says, don't give it. This should be respected. This should be given to people who respect it. And otherwise, they will become offensive. To say that Bhagavad-gita is useless, to say that I'll burn Bhagavad-gita because it tells about God. There are people who do that. It becomes offensive. And when the Jivatma commits an offense like that, what happens? He gets pap. And through that pap, his prospect of even getting that Bhagavad-gita in the next life, that message in the next life, will diminish. He's unlikely to ever get this message. He will continue to suffer in this world. So by Sri Bhagavan telling Arjuna and indirectly to us also to not give it publicly, he's also telling that it's an act of compassion. By giving it publicly, you're actually doing something cruel because you're making them commit an offense to this. So don't make others commit an offense to this. Instead, you give it to people who are likely to be non-offensive, who are likely to be receptive to hear it and will appreciate it at least in an intellectual manner. Okay, and there are people all over the world who actually appreciate the Gita. So many people. And give it to them. It also tells us about the qualification to understand the Gita really. If you really want to understand this message, later on, Sri Bhagavan will repeat this many times. Bhakti is required. Bhakti is what? What is meant by bhakti? Bhakti is basically the mentality. It's a mentality. It's not about activity. It's about the mentality of servitude. The mentality which thinks that I will live my life, I will conduct my activities in a way that is pleasing to Bhagavan, that will make Bhagavan feel good. जो उनको अच्छा लगेगा, जो भगवान को अच्छा लगेगा और बुरा नहीं लगेगा. So this bhav, a person who says, I will live my life like that, that is bhakti. That is the essence of bhakti. So Arjuna also, in the case of Arjuna, it so happens that he is an eternal associate of Sri Bhagavan, and he's also called a Nitya Parshada. Parshada means an associate or a Nitya Mukta. He's not a Jivatma like us, in the sense he's not going through this samsara like the way we are going through. He's an eternal Parshada. He also appears, Krishna and Bhagavan, Bhagavan and Arjuna appear as Nara and Narayana. Nara is Arjuna and Narayana is Bhagavan. So they appear in this form in an earlier yuga, right? And they are present in the Himalayas. We say that they are living in the upper reaches of Badrinath. If you go to Badrinath, there are 2 hills there called Nara Narayana, and it's said that they live there in an invisible form. They are eternally residing there. So Arjuna is an eternal associate, but still in this context, because of that closeness, that bonding between him and Krishna, which is eternal, Sri Bhagavan picks him and puts him in a state of Maya, right? He puts him in a state of Maya that Arjuna is not aware of. He doesn't know he has gone into that state of Maya. He uses Arjuna to deliver the Gita to society in the beginning of the Kali Yuga. So now Sri Arjuna says, this is the 4th shloka for today, and we will conclude with this shloka. Here, after hearing the first 3 shlokas, Arjuna asks this question. He gets a doubt, right? He's in Maya, we just now said, right? So if he was out of that Maya in his eternal state, this kind of question will not come to him, because the answer is obvious. Even we can guess the answer, but still Arjuna is in Maya. So he's asking this question. Aparam bhavato janma, param janma vivasvatah, kathametad vijaniyam tvamado proktavaniti. Says, your janma, Krishna, you just now said that you gave it to Vivasvan, Vivasvan gave it to Manu and so on. But Vivasvan was born so many yugas back, long time back. You are born just now, just a few years back. You are my cousin. You are born just before me or just after me. You are somewhere around my birth time. How can you say that you gave it to Vivasvan? It doesn't look realistic. Aparam bhavato janma. Your janma is apara, means afterwards. Param, superior, is his janma. It came earlier. Kathametad vijaniyam tvamado proktavaniti. How can we believe? How can we accept that you gave it in the beginning to Vivasvan? It doesn't look real. This is a translation. Vivasvan's birth was earlier and your birth later. Hence, how do we understand that you described his yoga to him in the beginning? So there are multiple interpretations. I said Arjuna is in Maya. This is one interpretation. Did Arjuna not really know the answer? There are different interpretations. That one is this, that he cannot recollect. The second is that he knows and recollects, but is asking for the benefit of other doubting people. This also, some commentators say that because people will naturally get this question. So he is asking so that Krishna can answer and he can elaborate. And more than that, another interpretation is that not just for other people, but Arjuna himself wants to hear, even though he knows very clearly that Sri Bhagavan is an eternal being. He wants Sri Bhagavan to say that, and he wants to hear it. Because even when you know the answer, sometimes you hear from a great personality talking about himself, you like it. You want to hear it again and again from him. So hearing Sri Bhagavan describe himself in his own words, through his own mouth, is so sweet. And Arjuna wants to experience that sweetness and that happiness of hearing from Krishna. Okay, so these are multiple interpretations. And going forward, we will hear about Sri Krishna's nature in the 4th chapter itself, in the shlokas which are now going to come. Sri Bhagavan will begin his answer, and then we will see how he describes himself. So in some sense, Sri Bhagavan, is presenting the Gita like his autobiography. An autobiography is a book where a person describes his own activities, his birth, his activities and his qualities, and what he likes, what he doesn't like, and why he did what he did, etc. And so this is exactly what happens in the Gita. Sri Bhagavan talks about himself, why he comes in this world, how he takes birth, and what he likes, what he doesn't like, and why he does those things that he does, and what he wants for us. Okay, so in that sense, Bhagavad-gita can be understood as an autobiography of Sri Bhagavan. And it's given, and it's written by Vyasa in the Mahabharata for the benefit of society. So we will stop with this shloka today. And going forward, we have a lot of very rich knowledge to come in this chapter. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Punarmilamah.